firsthand horror. Our own Caitlin Doornbos is in Ukraine and forced to take cover during the latest deluge of Russian bombing. Caitlin tells me what it's really like there on the ground. Plus, Hulk Hogan dead at 71. We'll look at the wide-ranging impact of this pop culture icon. And finally, Florida has a rat problem. Tallahassee police arrested Chuck E. Cheese for financial crimes. Yes, my friends, this is a real story, and I am thrilled you and I are here for it. Those stories and more today, Friday, July 25th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. We're doing things a little differently today and beginning with our big story, Ukraine. Post reporter Caitlin Doornbos is in the war-torn country digging up critical details on Russian attacks while those bombs were being dropped over her head. Caitlin's report from the front lines is powerful, it's poignant, and it's marking a new development in the conflict. Russian forces retrofitting Soviet-era weapons for use in modern war. The latest Russian attacks left 33 civilians, including a 10-year-old and 2 teens wounded. Now, Caitlin was on the scene just minutes after 2 strikes hit a residential apartment building and a textile factory in Kharkiv. That city is 15 miles from the Russian border, which makes it an easy and a convenient target. And because of this close proximity, bombs and missiles can strike before authorities even have time to alert civilians, meaning the damage is often significant. And now Ukrainian authorities say Russia is using the city and its citizens as a macabre guinea pig to test out a different type of bomb. Now, Caitlin is back in Kyiv, and I spoke with her Thursday night. Caitlin, first of all, of course, I am so happy to see you safe. Thank you so much for being here today. And you're really in the thick of these bombings, quite literally. What is it like to be on the ground, and how are these new Russian bombs changing the game there?
Yeah, it's really something. Today I woke up and about 11:15 a.m., I heard a sound. It sounded like a spiraling football almost, and then a big boom. And then about 15 minutes later, we heard another one. And it sounded too close for comfort. My windows shook. We ran outside and saw smoke billowing. It was terrifying. We waited because a lot of times Russians will do something called a double tap strike. And with a double tap, they'll wait until first responders or journalists even show up to the strike, and they'll hit again to try to help out or to try to target the helpers.
Oh my God.
So we waited until it was safe-ish, and we went down there, and I got to meet the most incredible, strong civilians who were very shaken up. There were a lot of hugs. There were a lot of tears. But everyone no one was killed. 33 people were injured, including 3 children. The youngest was about 10 or 11 years old. It is daily life here. In Kharkiv, I'm now in Kyiv. We're still under an air alert right now. That is the reality. It's like every day is 9/11 here in Ukraine. And I think that it is an incredible testament to their spirit that they're able to carry on. These new glide bombs that Russia is using, they're not all that new. They're actually old Soviet weapons that they outfit new wings onto, essentially. And so they are dropped from an airplane, and they go where they go. There's no precision at all. We call them dumb bombs. And so where they land is where they land. And today it landed on a residential building, an apartment complex, and a textile industry.
Now, this war has largely been carried out by drones, and I know you spent some time embedded with a Ukrainian drone unit. What did you learn from that?
It is incredible what these Ukrainian military men are doing. It is modern warfare. So just like I was talking about just before about these dumb bombs being dropped, now we're seeing a new type of warfare where drones are being used both in the sky and on land. Last night, I actually embedded with a Ukrainian drone group, and I watched as they sent supplies down to their soldiers downrange using these vehicles that they ordinarily would have had to use, 3 crewed members to bring these troops the necessities that they need. And I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. I think I'm shaken up by all the bombs. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch what they're doing. It's modern warfare. This is the new phase of war. And the United States, if God forbid we have to fight another war, it's going to be like this. And right now we're a bit behind on the battlefield in modern war. And there's just a ton of things that we can learn from the Ukrainians that we can take and adapt into our own warfare strategy. So therefore, God forbid, if we go to war with China or something like that, that is highly technologically advanced, we'll have the answers.
Now, I want to ask you about these reports about Russia using captured Ukrainian teens to fight against their own country. I mean, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it is really sad, the story of the kidnapped children in Ukraine. Children who are living closer to the front lines, they are often taken by the Russians and taken into Russia and sent into these kind of internment camps where they are forbidden from using the Ukrainian language, and they are taught Russian patriotism despite not wanting to in most cases. And they are now being cranked through military training. So the older ones actually get to go and train with the Russian military. And as soon as they're old enough to join the ranks, they're sent to the front lines. And there's something about, native Ukrainians having to be sent to fight their own people. It's definitely a mind warp hearing about parents having to fight their own children in a lot of cases. And those children don't want to be there, but Russia will kill them if they don't go out into the field and do their assaults themselves. So it's just the most just awful, vehement thing I've ever heard.
War is dark already, but to see a darker side to war, it kind of gives you chills. Caitlin Doornbos, thank you so much. And please come home safe. We are all thinking about you.
Thank you so much.
President Trump made a visit to the much-talked-about Federal Reserve Building on Thursday, accompanied by the man some say he's ready to fire, Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Now, last week, we talked about how the president has soured on the current Fed chair, despite being the one who first appointed him, and how it's, let's say, tricky to give the chair of the Federal Reserve the axe. So what are the reasons that the president wants to boot Powell? Well, Trump has cited the Fed chair's unwillingness to lower interest rates, as well as a very pricey renovation to that Fed building they were at. Now, the president was asked about this by our very own Deanna Narosi during his visit on Thursday. And when you hear Trump's answer, bear in mind, Powell is standing right next to him.
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire him.
After the tour, he was asked more specifically if the mismanagement of that expensive Fed building project was a fireable offense for Powell, and the president said he, quote, didn't want to put that in this category. Now across the pond to France, where President Emmanuel Macron announced Thursday that his country will be the latest to recognize Palestine as a state. The French president said on X that he would formalize the decision during the UN General Assembly in September. Now, more than 140 countries around the world already recognize Palestine as a state, but France will be the biggest and most powerful by far. France has Europe's largest Jewish population and the largest Muslim population in Western Europe. Thursday's announcement came shortly after the United States walked out of ceasefire talks in Qatar early after it said Hamas was not showing good faith. Moving on now to our third celebrity death of this week. Hulkamania sadly is no longer running wild. Wrestling and pop culture icon Hulk Hogan died Thursday. He was 71. A cardiac arrest call was made to 911 and medics were then sent to his home in Clearwater, Florida. Rumors about Hulk's health had been swirling for weeks now. He had undergone neck surgery back in May, and according to TMZ, some claimed that it left him in a coma, though his wife denied those rumors. Now, there was a time when Hulk Hogan was ubiquitous in pop culture, in the ring, on TV, in movies, on lunchboxes, t-shirts, even ice cream bars. Born Terry Bollea, the Hulkster rose to stardom in the 1980s and brought the WWF and pro wrestling along with him. He later dabbled in Hollywood and even starred with his family for 4 seasons in the VH1 reality show Hogan Knows Best. Last year, Hogan appeared in support of President Trump at the Republican National Convention, and Trump posted online about his, quote, great friend the Hulkster, calling him MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. There were also plenty of controversies surrounding the muscled, the tan, the blonde, mustachioed star. Hulk Hogan bankrupted the once massively popular gossip website Gawker, suing them into oblivion after they released a sex tape featuring Hogan and his best friend's wife in flagrante. But perhaps more damaging to Hogan than that affair and that tape was that the tape also captured him repeatedly saying the N-word and making racist remarks about daughter Brooke's dating life. Later in his own life, Hogan found God. He and his third wife, Sky Daly, were baptized together in a ceremony in 2023. Now, before we move on, I have an update in another celebrity death we've been following. New York officials announced that celebrity chef Anne Burrell, who was found dead in her Brooklyn home last month, died by suicide. What is the most you would ever pay for a cup of coffee? I'm not talking about an extra gargantuan macchiato with almond milk, triple espresso, caramel drizzle, cold foam, whipped cream midge. I mean, a simple cup of joe. $4? Maybe $6? Well, if you said $28 freaking dollars, do I have the place for you? The UK-based coffee slinger Watch House has a $28 8-ounce cup of brewed coffee for sale at their Manhattan store. It's called a La Negrita, and Watch House says the price tag comes from all the labor that goes into getting the coffee from the plant to your cup. The bean needs 3 to 5 years before it can be picked, and after it's roasted, the Watch House experts do a lot of recipe testings, then the actual brewing is a whole ordeal. Does this not sound a lot like how everyone makes coffee too? I digress. Still, we wondered if it was worth it, so we asked some New Yorkers about it.
Oh, overpriced. Too expensive.
You wouldn't pay $28 for that?
No.
Would you?
That's silly. Silly.
For the $28 for the cup? Like, no. Is that what it costs? That's pretty heinous.
Look, I don't do crappy coffee. I'd rather just not have it because I love a quality cup of joe, but this ain't it for $28 plus the tip they apparently ask you for when you pay. And finally today, not a Florida man story, but a Florida mouse man story. A big celebrity arrest in Tallahassee, one Charles Entertainment Cheese in cuffs. You heard me correctly, police in Florida slapped handcuffs on the one and only Chuck E. Cheese in the middle of a kid's birthday party and then dragged him away. Yes, he was in full costume, and yes, the cops kept the oversized rat head on. Social media blew up over this with photos and videos posted of inmate Cheese being let out of the restaurant in full garb. Now later, the disembodied giant mascot head was seen sitting on top of a patrol car with the now unmasked alleged criminal standing next to it. The arrest was for 3 felonies: theft of credit card, criminal use of personal identification information, and fraudulent use of a credit card. And as if this story wasn't enough, the chef's kiss. The credit card was supposedly stolen inside of the Chuck E. Cheese. You cannot make this stuff up. And real quick, before we go, I promised you yesterday that I would update you on that 12-year-old little leaguer who flipped his baseball bat, got suspended from his state championship tournament, and then the whole thing ended up in court. Well, a judge in New Jersey said yes, Marco Rocco could play. Let's hope if Rocco's team wins, his coach isn't taking them to celebrate at a Chuck E. Cheese. If you haven't seen the photos of Mr. Entertainment Cheese being hauled out of a child's birthday party, please go to the New York Post in print or online. It will be worth it. Something else totally worth it, liking and subscribing to the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Where else are you going to get this melange of stories first thing in the morning? Only with me. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday.